fragrant, numbing, and addictive Szechuan-style mouth-watering chicken begins with succulent, gently poached meat. While traditionally made using a whole bird, I prefer to use bone-in thighs because they cook much more quickly and their bones are quite easy to remove after cooking if you're not into the whole bone-in situation. Start by adding 2 quarts of water and 1.5 tablespoons of diamond crystal kosher salt to a well-insulated pot, stirring to combine, followed by 1 pound of bone-in chicken thighs, a few rough chopped scallions, and a piece of ginger about this big, also roughly chopped up. I'm going to quickly cover 2 poaching methods, the first of which comes out a little better but requires more time and a thermometer. So if you want to keep it simple or just don't have a thermometer on hand, use the timestamps below to skip ahead. Using a medium-low flame, slowly heat your pot on your stove until the water reaches 160 degrees. Turn off the heat, slap a lid on the pot, and allow the chicken to gradually cook through while monitoring the temperature of the water. If the water cools to below 150 degrees, heat it back up to 160 and then turn the heat off again. Cook until the internal temperature of the thickest part of the chicken reaches 155 degrees, then remove it from the pot and place it into an ice bath. For me, the cook time was about 35 minutes after the water initially came up to 160 degrees. I have an in-depth video on the science of safely poaching chicken below 165 degrees, so if you're at all concerned about food safety, I'll link it in the description below so you can check it out. You can also just feel free to cook it all the way to 165 if you know it's going to skeeve you out. The end result just won't be as good. If you don't have a thermometer, use a medium-low flame to gently heat the pot on your stove until the water just hits a light simmer. Then reduce the heat to as low as possible and cook for 5 minutes. Turn off the heat, slap a lid on the pot, and allow the chicken to cook for an additional 5 minutes before removing it and placing it into an ice bath. Regardless of the method used to poach your chicken, strain out the aromatics and reserve your light chicken broth for future use. With the poached chicken all squared away, it's time to move on to our sauce. My recipe yields more than what is needed for the dish, but I always like to make extra while I'm going through the effort to make it because it's great on noodles and as a dipping sauce for dumplings, but feel free to just cut the recipe in half if you don't want to have any extra left over. In a blender, combine 2 tablespoons of the reserved chicken broth, 1 tablespoon of chinkiang vinegar, 1 tablespoon of shoaxing wine, a sliced up piece of ginger about this big, 2 to 3 garlic cloves depending on their size, 2 tablespoons of Chinese sesame paste, tahini, or peanut butter, an optional ½ teaspoon of MSG, 1/3 of a cup of your favorite chili oil, preferably a fairly mild Szechuan red oil variety, and our secret weapon, 1/3 of a cup of incredibly flavorful sweet aromatic soy sauce. Infused with a variety of spices, this sweet soy sauce is essentially teriyaki that had a major glow up, and it is what will really kick this dish up to the next level. I prefer to use a homemade version, the recipe of which I'll link below along with my recipe for Szechuan style red oil, but you can also simply buy it if you prefer. I'll post links to purchase all of the ingredients down in the description below for your reference. Blend on high until a smooth, cohesive sauce develops, then pour it into a container and set aside. Now it's time to put everything together and actually eat the dang thing. This dish is traditionally served bone-in, so you can cut the chicken into strips by slicing into it until your knife reaches the bone and then firmly smacking the spine of your knife to drive it through. I, however, am a big bone-hating baby and prefer to remove them before slicing the chicken into strips by carefully making an incision along either side of the thigh bone and gently running my fingers underneath the bone to pop it out, using my knife to help out if need be. In my recipe testing, I overcooked boneless thighs every single time and was never able to get the same succulent texture as bone-in ones, in case you were wondering why I even called for the bone-in thighs in the first place. Pour about 1 cup of the sauce onto a plate or bowl, then toss down some kind of sliced vegetable like cabbage, or in this case I'm using cucumber, and lay your chicken down on top of it. This is more for presentation than for flavor, so you can feel free to just leave it out if you want. Combine 2 tablespoons of chili oil with a teaspoon of ground Szechuan peppercorns and pour it over the top of everything. If you're using a chili oil with a lot of kick, feel free to just substitute more of the sauce we made previously for this step. Top the dish with a sprinkle of sesame seeds, some crushed peanuts, and some cilantro, and you're totally good to go. This was the dish that made me fall in love with Szechuan cuisine, so I really hope it brings you as much joy to eat as it does for me. And if you enjoyed the video, please consider liking it or subscribing to my channel. It really helps out small YouTubers like myself, and I would really appreciate it. Until next time, later nerds.